I took it to the light and examined it carefully. It was an old right-hand glove. The marks on the inside showed that it had made several trips to the cleaners, and ignorant as I was of such matters, I knew that the police could easily identify it from those marks. Also it bore, in addition to the stains, some curious black streaks that looked as though it might have been used while the owner worked about the engine of a car, but which had a pungent odor, familiar but hard to identify, except that it was apparently not engine grease. Still, it might have been. I sat back and thought. Beginning at the house nearest the gate, Jim Wellington and Helen had a car, but it was kept at a garage on Liberty Avenue, not far away. The Daltons had a car, and Joseph drove it on state occasions. Mr. Dalton often worked over it in the garage. Holmes I eliminated, he had true mechanic's hands, usually dirty, to Mother's disgust. The Lancasters had no car at all, using a hired one when necessary, and George Talbot had an ancient Ford, notorious in the Crescent for its noise and for George's boast that he had never looked under the hood since he bought it. Also, I was more and more certain that the black smears were not engine grease, that they were something else which I should be able to identify, but could not, and which was pungent enough to rise above the odor of wet leather and the dreadful flat smell of dried blood. One thing I did know. That glove held the key to the crime next door. It had been worn by the killer, and now I was to hide it where even the police could not find it. For I knew well enough that the man in the rubber coat had not believed me. I could not even burn it. Not at once, anyhow. It was wet, and besides, Margaret had told me to hide it. I might get her permission later to destroy it, but for that night at least I had to secret it. But where? And as though to add to my troubles that night, Mother had to choose that moment to waken and to come through the connecting bath into my room. I had only time to slip the dreadful thing under a chair cushion before she entered. There was nothing to do but to face it out, so I stood there while she gazed in amazement at my sopping head and dress. Louisa, where in the world have you been? I couldn't sleep, Mother. I walked to the corner, and the storm caught me. You went out? Like that? No, I came back like this, Mother. But she refused to smile. I can still see her, as I see so many things belonging to that dreadful time, her hair in its usual kid rollers, her dead black dressing gown about her, and her face grave and somber. Louisa, she said, if I ask you to stay in the house especially at night, until this crime is solved, will you believe me when I tell you that there is a real reason for it? I should think you would have to tell me more than that, Mother. She shook her head. It is not my secret. And it is particularly necessary that the police should not know. But if it has any bearing on this terrible thing, they ought to know. The thing is done. Nobody can bring her back. It all sounds stupid and silly to me, I broke out. And if the rest of us are in danger, it's criminally wrong. That's all. But Mother's face took on the obstinate look I know so well. I am sure all possible steps will be taken, she said. The only reason I have told you is that you will realize that you must not leave the house at night. Or even in the daytime, alone. So, to avoid publicity, we are all to be prisoners. Mother, if you don't tell the police, I shall. I was frightened after I had said it, for I do not remember ever before coming into open conflict with her. I had the little girl feeling that probably the lightning outside would strike me dead the next minute, but Mother took it better than I expected. If you do, she said, coldly but without indignation, I can only tell you that you will spoil 2 lives, and may completely destroy one of them. With that she went out, leaving me to make of it what I could. Chapter 10. I remember that I spent the time until Mother slept again in undressing and in trying to think of a safe spot in which to hide that sickening glove. Perhaps that seems a simple matter in a house as large as ours, but it does not take into account the crescent type of housekeeping. For 30-odd years, in 4 of our 5 houses, the week has been divided into certain household days. Thus, although we have imported certain labor-saving devices, we still wash on Monday and iron on Tuesday. We still bake our own bread, on Wednesday and Saturday, we clean our silver on Thursday, we do our marketing 3 times a week and do it ourselves, and on Friday we have a general cleaning, upstairs and down. Saturday is a sort of preparation day, being devoted to the preparing of elaborate food for Sunday, and to the changing of beds, the listing of Monday's wash and a complete tidying up of house, porches and grounds. Nothing is sacred from this system, and I myself have rather less privacy than the elephant in our city zoo. It is nothing unusual for me to find Mother seated before my bureau and putting into order the contents of its drawers, And it was in the course of such an investigation that she once found hidden there a letter from Jim Wellington, and thus ended my first and only romance. So it was that, there waiting for mother to go to sleep, I was wildly canvassing the house for some safe hiding place for the glove. I considered the library and dropping it behind the books there, but although we use the room, the books are my father's and so are held virtually sacred. No hand but mother's ever dust them, and only that week I had heard her say that she meant to get at them again.